Today we are going to be painting this landscape, and this is going to be, it feels like a lot if you're just looking at it like this, but it's really not as much as it looks like, and it will probably actually go pretty fast. So one thing that I would love for you to pay attention to is I printed this off, and I don't have the best printer, and the color is actually not as vibrant as the reference photo is. So if you print it off, you may also want to be looking at it on your computer screen or your iPad screen, at least the color piece. I printed it in color as well as in black and white. So let's take a look at this. Again, I want to talk to you about how I traced this particular reference photo. So this reference photo, I took my arch watercolor paper, and if you're French, you will pronounce it arch, but you've got your watercolor paper. I've got my 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, and I have traced out the scene here. So what I used was this carbon paper. It's very, very used. So mine is not as glossy looking because it's a very old piece of carbon paper that I've been using for years. It was gloss side down. I taped my reference photo to my paper. Now, you may not be able to see, but here I did do a border of masking tape along the edges. So there is a border of masking tape along the edges. Okay, so once you have that all traced out, you can just pause this and then come on back when you're done tracing it out. So I'm going to just double check this one more time. I think it's always a good idea to take a look and see how did you get everything down that you wanted to get down? And I believe I did. So the thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that reference photo off, and we have what we're going to be working with. I am using the Arch watercolor paper. As I said, I like to use my Winsor and Newton pan of paints. This is my favorite. These paints are currently my favorite paints to use. They're bright. They've got a nice consistency. The brushes that I like to use are the Princeton Heritage series. I have a number of these brushes. I've got around 12, around 16, around 6, and around 2. And then this is a black velvet silver 1. So it is a very, very thin, for very, very thin lines. So I don't use this one very often, but I like to have it around just in case I want to use it. So I'm going to begin. I always like to have my reference photo handy, and I want us to take a look at this. We'll begin by putting in this sky. I want to have a very, very pale yellow pink that comes up in the back. So I'm going to take my round 16. I'm going to get that round 16 brush, and I think that I'm going to just kind of get my water onto my palette here. So I'm bringing my water onto my palette, and I'm going to start with raw sienna actually, because I think that is just kind of the muted yellow that I would like to pull in here. And I may even just bring in just a touch of the color that I have that I'm bringing in is a little bit of the crimson, and it's just a touch of the crimson. It just brings in this little spot right here. So I want to bring that all in down here. Now I am going over the places where I know that light would be poking through. So I'm not too worried about we're gonna paint black over top of a lot of this. So I'm not super worried about getting too much color. I don't want this to be super wet, so I'm trying to keep that in check. And now that I have a little, very, very light amount of our raw sienna down. Okay, I want to look at this. As you can see, we've got this nice brightness right here that kind of turns into a reddish glow and a little bit of light pink. So I want to take my crimson, and it's almost a permanent rose color. And I'm gonna just pull that right along the bottom here. I want to add a little bit more color to the paper than what I'm actually seeing in my reference photo. I want to add just a little bit more here. And the thing that I want to also make sure I really put in, I want to capture that really bright yellow. And that really bright yellow is poking through the trees in this spot right here. So I'm gonna just let that kind of bring itself to life. I'm even gonna bring it down in here a little bit. So we'll let that bring itself to life. As you can see, it's pushing out, and I'm gonna let it do what the pigment's gonna travel out, and it's gonna look like the sun is coming up. So that right there is gonna be a very fun spot with that nice light pink traveling up. So we're gonna let that continue to do its thing. Now, I do want to kind of bring in a little bit of that light, bright color. And it's almost golden. It's got a bit of orange yellow to it, and it comes in here. It's the reflection. And the reason I want to put this in now is because I want to make sure I get it in, and that I don't put blue over top of that spot. I see it kind of along the bank over here as well. Okay, so now this all needs to dry. There is just a touch over here, so I could bring a little bit in here. So we'll let this dry. Once it dries, we'll come back in and we'll do more. The area down here is dry enough for us to come in and do what I had hoped to do with the water. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this big ol' round 16, and I am using my French Ultramarine Blue. That's the color that I want to use. And I'm gonna bring that in where I see it. So I see that color back here. A lot of that will be covered up. I'm gonna keep it relatively light. Again, knowing, as usual, per usual, we can always go back in and go darker later. I'm taking care to really move around them nicely. So that I don't turn them green by mixing the blue over top of the yellow, right? Because yellow and blue make green. So we are avoiding that. And I don't need to be very precise right now with this color. Like I'm overlapping some of that dock, some of that pier. And it's okay because the black will cover over that very nicely. In fact, I'm just going to pull that in there like that, knowing that I'm going over top of it later. Now I want to come back to this little spot. Taking my round 6, I want to pick up a little bit more of this orange, and I got it a pretty sticky consistency, so it's wet, but it's not super wet. And I want to catch some of these rounded edges in here. I may even add a touch of the crimson. Now that I have that in, the next thing I want to do is I want to start working on some of the places that I'm going to be bringing in black. And the first place I'm going to do that are the rocks. So I have these rocks down here, and I'm going to bring it in like this. I don't know that I'm going to try to make them look like rocks per se, but I do know that I want to make this, we'll just begin with a black that's light enough to be gray, and I will darken it in spots as we go. But we're just starting by bringing in these darker spots. I'm going to do that along here now as well. And as you can see, I'm working on these trees, and you can see how I am drawing in the branches and letting the trees over here become what they need to become. I do want to allow some of the background to show through, so I will just gently make spots with my brush. This orange is still pretty wet, so I don't want to hit any black in there, because if and when I do that, it will bleed, and that is not the effect that I'm trying to go for right there. So I am going to pick up more of my black. know there are steps right here, and I may just fill that in because I don't think I'm going to be able to bring in that level of detail. So this is where we'll just bring in those steps, fill them in. And definitely this needs to be darkened here. So with the black, we may need to do many layers to bring in the contrast that we are trying to achieve. So again, it may take many layers bringing in this black to hit the level of contrast we want to achieve here. I'm going to pick up my bigger brush in order to do this. Instantly, it goes so much faster. Don't be afraid of your bigger brushes. I know so many people who are really afraid. They'll just use like a round 2 for a really long time, and it just takes forever when you do that. Don't be afraid to use your bigger brushes, especially if you are using a really nice brush like a Princeton Heritage Series brush. It's got a very nice tip that you can, yes, maintain getting into those smaller spots with. And I need to bring more of this black down here. These are rocks. I want to come in and start working on my dock and getting in the colors that I want to get in. Now, this is going to be interesting. It's essentially black, but this is where a really good Payne's gray can come in. So I'm going to mix up a really good Payne's gray and keep it very, very, very dark here. And the thing that I'm going to bring in, I'm going to bring a little brown into my Payne's gray. So I'm going to bring in a strong amount of Van Dyke brown. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to just go like this. I want more Payne's gray, actually, because it's leaving a little bit of a green. More Payne's gray. All right, I'm gonna bring the Payne's gray over here. These are a bit of a lighter color of rocks, but they are rocks nonetheless. I'm bringing them in. Oh, I got too much water in here. It's way too much water, but that happens sometimes. You can see I do that type of thing too. I'm bringing that all around. We'll get that in there. Okay. So what's gonna happen now? What do we want to do to bring this alive? We've been color mapping, right? We've gotten lots and lots down, and that's great. I want to bring in some of that golden orange along here, and the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to take my round 6 and I'm going to grab this orange, and I'm going to just do a little bit here. Right, just these little spots. And we're going to carry that through. I'm going to take my Payne's gray, keeping it a strong Payne's gray, and I know, well, let's bring that in here. It would be helpful if this was dry. I'll have to come back. But I'm going to add this Payne's gray in here. We've got this water that's almost black in some spots, And I'm adding these little details. See how I'm doing this? And this is like the shadow reflection on, these are so fun, from this is just a shadow from the dock in the water like that. See, it's like rippled. And I'll bring that through here. There's some rippling back here. See, it's just darker water and then ripple, ripple, ripple. Now is when this is beginning to come to life, right? Seeing the water look like it has movement is truly what's going to bring this to life. So you can see where it's a little bit darker back here. And this can be a little bit tedious, and that's okay. So sometimes it's just you gotta hyper focus a little bit and bring it in. So I know that if I just kind of bring this in, it's almost a little shadow of the dock down here. It is absolutely these lines that are what are giving the water any type of depth or movement. And they don't all have to be this Payne's gray color. So I've been using this Payne's gray, and that is nice where it's been, but I want to make it a little lighter color over here. So I'm going to move to my French ultramarine, and just give some of that placid little lines. I want to make that color a little bit more relevant by bringing it in over here a bit. There we go. So as you can see, there we go. We have really immediately that just really pops and comes to life. Now, the next thing I want to do, this orange, I just want to make it a little bit more, I want to bring in a little reddish color in parts of it. So I'm going to just bring that around. There we go. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. We really are. So I'm picking up more black. I've moved to my round 16. This is immediately in front of us. It is going to be one of the darkest parts of the painting because it is right there in front of us. It's got the highest shadow. So I want to really make sure that that shadow contrast comes through. It's very highly in shadow. And this is a very, very sweet memory for me. This was at a friend's just beach house. It's right where the ocean meets a river, and it's brackish water. And it was right but pre-pandemic. I was at a friend's house and we were staying here together right before the world changed. And it was a beautiful memory. I made this paint, but I'm going to darken it in some spots where I see it's darker, where something might be in shadow. A little bit more. There we go. That's looking really good, I feel like. Pleased with how this has come out. It is, I think, like a pain-ish gray, black down here. So I believe we are about done with this one. So we can take off the tape. And taking off the tape always gives it such nice, lovely edges. And et voila, we have this beautiful little landscape. I hope you've enjoyed.